atmosphere is changing now. Pure land beings have appeared. The evidence is all around. Buddha's bodhisattva's here. The atmosphere is changing now. Pure land beings have appeared. The evidence is all around. Buddha's bodhisattva's here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Wisdom surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your grace. Your power surrounds us. We're the reason you came. Grant your blessings, your name. Bestow your mercy. The power of your great vow can empower us now. Bestow your mercy. Great holy beings, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done, here as in heaven. Your light surrounds us. 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 Your light surrounds us.
I feel better already. It's So today I want to talk a little bit about this Shushin um, uh, correct cultivation. And I've been trying to define for myself what correct is. Um, Once we like just fasten around a word, we lose the sense of process, and it means this. And in that fastening down, we lose the fluidity, the reality, if I could say, of the word. It becomes fixed, it becomes defined, and then it starts to define our experience depending on how we have defined the word. And so part of this practice is undefining words, undefining meanings, to put them to allow them to enter into a greater perspective or a greater sense of reality, walking it out, actually living it in our day-to-day life. So sometimes there's no right or wrong answer to a question or a problem. There's just an answer. But once we think answer means this is the answer, we lose the scope of all the other many possibilities of what something could transform into. So in a way, we lose the whole essence of transformation. And this is a path that inspires and aspires to transformation. Now, transformation constantly requires the engagement of change. And so where impermanence is sort of like a dirty word when we start, the further down the path, we start to see the magnificence of impermanence. So it's starting to lose for me the sense that it is something so bad, impermanence, bad, things constantly changing, bad. It's not that at all. But it is now becomes like a track that one can move upon for transformation. I hope you're hearing me today because I'm trying to take us in a little different direction. For the last, I think, maybe 6 months, um, uh, I've been working with this concept of a state of mind that a mind state that is abiding in equality, that's being in a non-differentiated state, that where I'm not always defining and slotting things. This is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. But I've been trying to just see them as the outcome of causality, just the outcome of cause and condition. I mean, that's just it, to see it as the outcome of cause and condition. This condition arose due to causes. Causes create this condition. This condition now becomes a cause that's going to create a future condition. And the wisdom is to just be able to see that, not be perplexed, not be befuddled, not be angry about it, not be even sad about it, because it doesn't matter. Honestly, the universe doesn't care about our sadness about things or our gladness about things, you know. So I might be personally glad about something, but I know that in terms of the universe doesn't care, And so I'm not too uh, what I recognize is that gladness or sadness is a kind of agitation of the mind. Now, if mine's going to be agitated, I'd rather be agitated toward gladness than sadness and remorse and fear and all of those things. So on a certain relative level, you have your positivity and you have your negativity. But as you keep moving out, all of that begins to also fall away. That's just due to our avidya, our not understanding things, and it has to do with our habitual tendencies and propensities to act and respond to stimuli in certain ways. But I can see where all that fits in. So I might become more reactive, or if I'm in one state and that state's definitely not beneficial, I might like to phase into another state. So if I am like really perturbed about something or fearful about something, I can just use something as a tool, like maybe just even an affirmation. For instance, if I'm perturbed or sad, if I say to myself, I shall put on a happy face, then shall my countenance be changed. But I have to want to move into that space, is what I'm saying. If I don't, doesn't matter what's said, whether I say it, whether you say it, it doesn't matter. If I choose to stay in that space, I stay in that space, and you can't do a thing about it. No matter how much I say to you, I want to be in a different place, I have to do it. If I don't do it, then I'm just filling your head with my chatter. And so, when we talk about how we care for one another, it's, if I have garbage in my kitchen, I need to take it and put it in the waste bin. I shouldn't package it all up and give it to you. you know, giving you my garbage to constantly process or take home. I need to handle my own affairs. I need to take responsibility for what I choose to embrace. And it may take me a while to work through it until a change comes, but I'll never work through it, and that change will never come as long as I just keep packing it up and delivering it to you. And so we start to see these kinds of things as we grow. That's how I know when people are growing, because they start becoming responsible and responsive to their own messes, and instead of dumping it on me or talking about it, but never going the next further step and trying something different. I mean, really giving something different a try. Even if you try and you fail, better to try and fail than never to try. And so today I want to talk about these phases of transformation, because as I looked up this word in the Chinese dictionary, and there were many different words, it took me back to my days of when I was a Taoist. Before I became a Buddhist, I was a Taoist priest, and uh, and I was part of the Longman Taoist sect, School of Complete Reality, or complete enlightenment. That's a particular school, and it is said that Dongbai and Buddha references him. This particular school came about by fusing three different schools of thought and practice. One was was Buddhism for its principles. The other was for Confucianism, for the cultivation of or virtue. And the third was Qigong and Chinese medicine for the nurturing and the strengthening of the body and mind as it moves through phases in life. And out of that came, I was more concerned at that time about the Chinese medicine and so forth. Not for myself, because I didn't like all that stuff. I didn't want needles. I didn't like the bitter herbs, but I liked what they did for people, and I wanted them for people, just not for me. Um, it's funny, I took one of those online tests, like to see your biological and your age or something like that, and I took the test, asked you 50 questions, and I'm 86. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, but I'm just saying I was one of those who didn't practice what they preached. Panya did, and I would tell Panya all the time, well, um, this was right around the time when the stock market crashed, and well, it's crashed a few times in my life. I think 3 major crashes, but this was a bad one, and people used to get on me about not saving. And I won't say that it was eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow you die. But what I was saying is I felt that some people only lived for the what if calamity, and so they never got to enjoy life, always saving up for a rainy day. And then the stock market crashed and they lost all their 401ks or retirements. And I said, see, Panya, I told you. I said, I don't have any money and they don't have any money, but at least I enjoyed myself in the meantime. And so that was just sort of like my mind. My mind and Panya Deepa's mind were very different. But we each live according to our own karma. It's hard for us to understand others because because we have a certain unconscious influence um, that causes us to incline in a certain way. Um, Now, right now, all our science can point to is what happens after birth in this life. But you can't just have birth in this life. Something had to occur that caused birth in this life. Now, because our science hasn't figured out what that is yet, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that it's not, it's just that we haven't figured it out. Every time we discover something, I mean, like, that's weird. It's not new because we're discovering it. We're just becoming aware of it, but it has always existed. So that's what I really like about true scientists. They are so excited when they discover something new. They are the most, we think like, I want to see the science behind it. I want to see, but scientists are not trying to see the science behind it. The scientists are just really trying to understand the nature of the universe. And when they discover something, we call it science, and that's the name that we give to having discovered how something works, you know. But it's not like science, a hard fact science. I'm having a little difficulty expressing but just grab any of it that you can grab, because we call it science today and make that the firm foundation. That's our mixed upness. It's just that we have realized something or be able to prove it in a way that's satisfactory to us today, that we call it, name it science and make it fact. But it was always fact before we even knew about it. When somebody was saying that it was superstitious, or when a person didn't have any way of explaining phenomena at all, it was just a mystery, you know. So I like mystery, but I like understanding better than mystery. Mystery's good, because you can hold what you don't know in a good conscience, but understanding is more useful. I'll put it that way. It's more useful. But to understand mystery, we have to give mystery its place to be unpackaged, to be unwrapped. And so it is with this journey towards awakening. We have to be open for something that is not in our memory, conscious memory bank, that's not in our conscious memory bank, to open up, to be unraveled. We have been great in building, manufacturing, and coming up with technology. We've got telescopes that can, where we can now look at the moon. I was looking at the moon on TV the other day, and they were showing, no, Mars yesterday, and they were showing the dust storms. I said, that looked like Iowa somewhere. I'm like, was that really Mars? It honestly, the terrain and the dust storms, we can see all the way to Mars, and we can see all the way a man on the moon, and we can't figure out how to take care of things right in our own community, you know. And so I was just looking at that and the technology, and then being blown away by my personal email to somebody showing up in AI this morning. And I was just thinking about, all of this outer technological advancement that's happening. And I was wondering, what are we gonna do to uh, to keep up? What about inner technology and inner advancement? That's what the sages, the scientists of consciousness teach us. And that's the class that I'm in. That's the classroom. That's the textbook that I am investigating. But what this textbook says is you can't just read it and think about it in your head. There are things that you have to do. And that you're going to look at it through a lens of memory. So now I'm looking at what is my spiritual lens? What is my memory? For me, Pannavati, it comes through a lens of Taoism, which came through a lens of Vedanta, which came through a lens of Christianity, which came through so that's my lens, but it may not be your lens. So you may have difficulty understanding, or what is easy for me to put together. Some of the things that I hear Buddha Master say, like, I know exactly what he means because of something that reverberates on the same frequency or within the same harmonic resonance of something that I've already learned, and it takes me a little bit further. It helps me unpack it a little bit more. It becomes a little clearer to me. And I have created the condition to understand it. The cause has been there because I practiced this. I studied it too, but not just studied it, I also practiced it. So I know the reality of that. And then this gets added, and it expands my capacity to penetrate it. And so each one of us has to recognize that we got to this moment here by all kinds of different directions. That's why you can't rely on a Wednesday and a Sunday Dharma talk to know where you're going and to unpack your mind. You can't. You have to think about what your trajectory and your pathway has been. So when things come up and bump up against your critical thinking mind, uh, if you don't hear it here, you can investigate. You can ask AI. And AI will get you started, you know. But until you find something that picks up, it's like otherwise you lose a stitch. you lose a stitch, you're going to end up, when you finish with your garment, with a hole in it, you know. But if you can pick up that loop and you continue it on, that's how you have a perfect pattern, you know. So some of this growth that we experience necessarily requires the loop back to pick up the stitch to continue the pattern. So it's not hopscotching all over, studying this, learning about that. You know, that just leads to turbidity and confusion, you know. But when something resonates with you in a living way, you know, it won't take you 10 years to, you know, of hanging around to see, because there is something alive in it and living that helps you catch that loop and move to the next stitch. Um, so I was thinking today, and I want to give you a for example to like show you how things pick up, so that you can begin to think and contemplate on your own journey here, you know, for however many years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. That's a long time. All of us have been here a long time. And have we used our memory and afforded it the opportunity to inform us in how to pick up the stitch to unraveling the mystery of life, and how to move forward, with that. And so um uh in the Longman Taoist set of complete enlightenment. And Buddha Master has a whole section on Qigong and why we shouldn't do this and why we shouldn't do that. And when I first read it, I was offended. I was offended because I had done those practices and I could see the benefit and the efficacy of those practices. And so I was like, why would you say that? Because this was good. This was good. That was good. And so there I was at my defense. You know, I'm defending Taoism, I'm defending Qigong, I'm defending Chinese medicine, I'm at this defense. And he's like, whoa, whoa, no need to defend. I'm just telling you, if you want to get that loop, this is what it's going to take, you know, for you to catch that loop, to go to the next, unless you're trying to go there. If you're trying to go there, stay there. But if you're trying to go here, you're going to have to hook that loop and you're going to have to go to this. And I'm going to give you a perspective that if you take the time to sort it out. So it's been years I've been trying to reconcile all of that. Not because I want to do it. I never did want to do it for me. I just wanted it done for other people because it would help them if they were committed. I knew I wasn't that committed, you know. Um, and so uh, one thing that we talked about in Taoism is like, and the correlating health um, or internal art medicine, internal art part of it had to do with a five element theory, the theory of five elements, you know. And so like if you had a certain sickness that correlated to certain organs and so forth, you don't treat that one, you treat the one that's influencing that organ. So you had generating cycles, you know, and you had to follow, and the skill comes in at really getting to the root disharmony, you know, because I tell you, if you start backtracking, you never know how far to backtrack. I mean, it's very different. That's where the skill comes in determining, you know, where the root insufficiency or dysfunction is. And it was called five element theory. But within the Taoist teaching, those who were actually using it as a life path, you know, not just for Chinese medicine, but as spiritual practice, we understood that didn't mean elements as much as it meant phases. These are phases. And that word SING that goes with Shushing, with correct cultivation. Cultivation, then, another definition for cultivation would be transforming phases. Transforming phases. So I look at Shushing as correct cultivation, but in my mind, because of what I personally bring to my understanding, I could translate that word, although that combined word Shushing, correct cultivation, I could translate it as true transforming or transformational phases, true transformational phases. See, that's what I mean. This practice has to be more than taking up words and Paul parroting them, but you have to put them into the cauldron of your own experience to understand things, to go further. Otherwise, at the end, you'll just be giving lip service. You'll just be saying, oh, I know the precepts. Oh, I know the practices. Oh, I know the this. Oh, I know the that, but you'll never step into the reality of it. And I tell you, it is an alive pathway. And so these phases, these elements, we call them, but it's actually a fine tuning and a shifting of phases corresponds for me, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. It corresponds for me with cycles of generating or creating things and overcoming or destroying things. So this might be a little bit more than you can kind of decide what you need to know. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and say it, and I'm saying it for a reason. So we talk about the 5 phases in Chinese medicine, which is wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, right? And wood, and we got somebody here who knows all this today. What is so she gonna check me up, and she's gonna let me know if I was right or wrong at the end. But wood represents a period of growth which generates abundant wood and vitality. So period of growth, just think about phases and changes now. Okay, so there's a period of growth. Fire is a period of flowering, brimming with fire and energy. It is a phase, fire. Earth is the in-between transitional space or season. And it's sort of like, what is this that we have? Indian summer, where stuff is you haven't gone from summer to you haven't gone from summer to fall, but it's like there's the cooling period coming, and it's like a time of being what's the word?
Satiated.
Yeah, satiated. Where something can just soak in and settle in. No movement, just resting, abiding in that place. Metal represents harvesting, a period of harvesting and collecting, and water is a period of retreat where stillness or storage pervades. And so these are the phases. We call them elements, but within Taoism, we took that to be a mistranslation. And so you have these 2 periods, of there's a period of growth, there's a period of destruction, and in between those two, there's a period of not just hanging on, not hanging on for dear life, but allowing something to like just soak in. Someone was telling me the other day, she's in that period, and if we don't give it its space, then we're gonna, we're gonna be out of season. If we don't give time for something to soak in and settle, you're just constantly grasping after, reaching for something else, then we're not going to be able to get the benefit of each phase. I won't say of each element, but of each phase. And our practice is like that. Our practice goes in moment by moment phases. It goes in, daily phases. We can talk about minute by minute, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, decade by decade. So there's many different ways that we can speak of these shifting time frames of transformation, but all of them are concerned with Ching, Xing, concerned with process and change. And so I've been thinking this week that process and change is not a bad thing, that impermanence is not a bad thing, but actually it's a good thing. Now, I started a new medication about 2 weeks ago. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been kind of struggling because I'm obviously not, it acts upon my body, or my body reacts to it in a different way than it did another medicine. So I'm waking up every night, or almost every night, and to an alarm because my blood sugar is dropping in the 30s. Now, 30s is coma level, so it's a little bit concerning to me, all things being equal. Not well, I am a little bit concerned about it. So last night when it went off, I jumped up and I drank the orange juice about 3 in the morning. 5 o'clock it went off again. I jumped off. This time I said, okay, so I need some fast acting and I need some slow. So I got cheese and crackers and orange juice at 5. At 8 o'clock, it was back down again, so it's yo-yoing. My body has to learn how to process it. I have to learn what times I can eat that will allow it to not do that during the night. And I started like I usually eat during the night, because I get hungry in the middle of the night. And I was like, that's not good for me. So I stopped eating in the middle of the night before I started on this new medicine. But now that I'm on this new medicine, you see, I might have to go back to eating in the middle of the night. Eating in the middle of the night was bad for the other medicine that I was taking and the condition my body was in. This medication and condition, it might be perfectly fine. So I can't say, well, no, I can't do it because that's what happened when I took something else and I was going through a different phase, you see. But we latch on to something and concretize around it, and we make that the right remedy. And what I'm saying is, we have to be more flexible in seeing and understanding the phases, and in a reality state, in a real action-oriented way, make these shifts and changes irrespective of the image that we want to present. Once we have an image, we like to maintain that image. Even when like in the background, something shifting, we don't want to be exposed. So once we, take on an identity, we like to hold on to that identity. That's what we got, But part of this journey is about surrendering uh, that mind that's attached to that identity. So on one hand, we're saying with our lips, I want to surrender this self-attachment. I want to surrender this egoic identity. But in actuality, in action, we're doing everything we can to hold on to it, because that's the face I have given to the world. Or maybe like if I'm in different, this is the face I give to my Dharma friends. This is the face I give to, the folks I work with. This is the face I give to my patients. This is the face I present to. And we have these identities that we tenaciously cling to for our, quote, safety and our sense of okayness. And so this is a path of getting unokay, non-okay, unokay. I'm sorry, y'all know I'm thinking about unalive. When you listen to Bhikkhu Bodhi, he used the word too. He said he unalived them or something like that. Like, you go, Bhikkhu Bodhi, you're older than I am. And so uh, I like young people. Mhm. I do, because I remember when I was young and so many things came up for me. I'm like, them old folks, you know, they're just so tight, so bound up, and I'm like, like, the world is my oyster. Tell me anything, I'll believe it once, at least, it was just wonderful. And so I like to hear these new things. And in the beginning, I might have an aversion to them, but I just keep listening to them. And I'm saying, like, what's the difference? What's so wrong with saying he unalived them? Instead of he, or he got unalived. I mean, like, it's just the way you put words together. I mean, I certainly know what that means. I mean, they killed him or he died or whatever. So we have an objection to things not being done the way they've always been done, or not being and when we step into practices with this mindset, we cannot get the benefit from the practice. If there is something there to encounter, to apprehend, that opens up our capacity, we miss the opportunity to get it. So they talk about the way of heaven, and that can mean 10 different things, or maybe even 100 different things. But it means a particular thing to me, the way of heaven. And I started thinking about beings in different realms within the universe, not just physically out on another. I can't believe that in all of these billions of galaxies, that this is the only one that has some intelligent life on it. I just can't believe it. And I can't believe that we are the most beautiful creatures that intelligentsia could come up with, with these gangly arms and legs and a nose I just, but if we see something that's different, we think that's grotesque or that's ugly, because we think we're beautiful and that it should look like me. So if I see something that's different, I have an aversion to that. And so you see how we like just form opinions, and they become solidified in our mind, and we narrow down our capacity to know anything different, to perceive anything greater, and to be uh, able to instigate or implement or bring into the world the magnificence of the universe. And so I'm thinking now about this. What's made me think about the universe is because sometimes it just gets a little too difficult for right now for me to think about the US. You know, it seems so myopic to me. And we have gotten myopic. We've gotten so myopic that we've lost our own unity. And it's becoming every man for himself. Uh, and so I'm thinking, how do I get back to seeing others equal to myself? How do I get back to restoring that kind of mindset? How do I be a part of the energy that creates or restores a unified field? Because the field is actually unified, you know. But if we don't see it as unified, if I see it as you against me, let everybody fight and the strong survive. That's part of a mentality now that is catching on, especially someone who feels like they're strong. The fight I can do, think maybe not so much, but fight I can do, you know. And so we're moving in that way. So if I'm not a fight I can do, at one time I was, I loved fighting. I know that um, and I wasn't even fighting to hurt you. I was fighting for the skill of winning, and that's, it was a different thing. And I remember going to a tournament one time, and the only person, like I would be on the circuit, this was in the martial arts now, not the internal arts part. And it was the one time I fought a Chinese martial artist. All before it was like all Western, and I'd come through a Japanese training first, and Japanese, it was the way of the fist. And so it was like hard banging and then when I met Pannavati, I switched to, you know, Kung Fu, and that was using the opponent's um, energy against them. So you didn't do that much. You just deflected and turned back the energy on them. And that was nice, but I had come up in the hard core, knock them out kind of thing. So I have this one time that I'm fighting this Chinese martial artist, and she was using Kung Fu, and I was using Japanese Kenpo. I could, she was like a whirling dervish. And I had brought all my friends to this tournament, you know. Uh, oh, it was awful. It was so humiliating. She beat me so bad. And the thing is that we learn in practice, like if you have to go here, you have to stop within 1 inch. More than an inch, you don't get the point. If you make contact, you don't get the point. It's got to be within 1 inch of the strike zone, right? So we pride ourselves of being able to get right to that 1 inch. You got to feel, you have to know where it is, and you've taken a lot of hits to know where it is too. But she was just like a whirling dervish, and she was just going all over. Um, and they kept calling point on her. And I was like, well, she doesn't even have any skill. She's striking and he said, if you were in a real fight on the street, would you be doing this? He said, we fight for real, and I learned something. I learned something from that, you know. Uh, and I never forgot it, that there was this theory, there's this training, there's all of that. But then there is, when you get into the real world, how you have to take that and adapt it to the real world situation. And you cannot rely on your theory, your understanding, you know, you there's a time to practice, and then there's a time to put the practice into effect. And that's the real world. That's what we're called upon in this. And we will not grow. We will not develop. We will not meet our goal of wanting to be a bodhisattva. You know, a bodhi mind is not attained through just mental construction, but 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 it's attained through uh, actual transformation in the real world. So that's what I wanted to say today. Now, Donbai was an immortal, different class of being, not a human being. Residence is not in this world, but in one of the heavenly worlds. And he taught Master Kwanzaa, who was the founder of the School of Complete Reality. Um, he came and he taught him 5 principles, and he said, keep looking at those until you penetrate them. So what he did was he went away for 3 years into the mountains, and he kept pondering what they meant. And when he thought he had a realization of them, he came down. And when he came down, his realization was verified. It wasn't through using clever words. It wasn't through, charisma, but he found that he had corresponding capacities to affect the outer world due to the broad nature of the expansion of his mind. That there was a mind that he had awakened to behind the ordinary conscious mind that enabled him to know things and to do things that through the deep penetration of these 5 principles that this immortal gave him. And so as he came down, he found that he could help. He could help society in ways that he was not able to help them before with just his ordinary mind and the use of ordinary human faculties. So if there's a thing that needs doing, and it's 10 of us, and all 10 of us can do the same things, but not the one thing that needs doing, then I want to be able to do the one thing that's needful. And so that's where my mind goes when I think about being a benefit to living beings. I want to have, if there is such a capacity, and history seems to reflect that there is, through the lineages of the sages, a way that we can assist in uncommon ways. That everybody's not willing to go through what it takes to master those qualities. Everybody's not willing to go through what it takes to give up personally to access that mental or psycho-spiritual dimension. Everybody's not willing to do that. Who is willing? I'm one who's willing. How much am I willing? Not as much as I say I am, because if I was, I would have it. That's how assured I am. I don't have it because I'm not as willing as I say I am. But I am working on being more willing, is what I am saying. So I'm not dinging myself. I'm not putting anybody down, and I'm also not putting myself down. But I am very sure on what I believe and what I embrace, so I can evaluate myself at any point in time, how well I think I'm doing with what I say I hold is true, so because that's all that really matters, is what I say I hold is true and how much I enter into that. And so he comes back and he has 7 students, and he teaches those 7 students, and and that's how the tradition came into being. And then he died. when I say he died, that means he left the human realm and he went back into his celestial world. Okay, so he came to impart to someone who was ready to receive. Not everyone, not even a whole group of ones who were together, but someone. And he left it and he departed. And that someone had 7 disciples. Great, this great teacher, but he only had 7 disciples. And then when he left, the seven split up. Each one had their own way. Although they had not attained, they were leaving that way, coming up with their own way, or based on the teaspoon that they did understand. You know, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Instead of banding together to strengthen for the realization that had been available to them. And so, you know, over time, you lose it. And by the time you get, you know, to the 13th century, like all the power of it is gone. So I'm just saying, be careful. We have to be careful. And not coming up with our own thing, you know. If we've had the great fortunate opportunity to encounter a master, don't take it lightly. Because if you can tap into that mind stream, then your mind begins to resonate in the same way, and you can possess or take up the same qualities. You don't have to admire somebody. You can be like them, you know, but it just depends on what you're looking for and what you're willing to do. And I'm saying this because we can so easily get lulled into a false sense of security. Like, I got the teaching, I don't, you know, but it's not about that at all. Well, it is about that, but not just about that. The most important thing is to begin to really understand and align oneself in accord with the principles. And so one of them changed it from the reality school of complete enlightenment to the way of complete perfection. Now, I was thinking that sounds a lot like how we went from the Vimudi Marga, the path of freedom, to the Vasuddhi Marga, the path of purification, right? And how something that was like open and like encouraging and just put a lid on it by saying, touch not, taste not, handle not. And something died. Something died even within the Buddhist diaspora, because it went from freedom to an emphasis on purification that has become so heavy, you know, that we can't even appreciate the freedom of a unobstructed mind. So we're constantly beating ourselves over, be better, do better, you know, constantly. And it says you can't get there that way. You might need to learn some touch not, taste not, handle not. But when you really learn it, there's no need to even talk about it anymore. You know, the mind doesn't incline that way. That's why we do things in a certain way. It's to neutralize a habitual tendency that doesn't serve us. But once we neutralize it, that's the end of it. If we lean on it too much, then that's when we become sanctified, cranktified, judgmental, all of that. And we don't even mean to be, but you can't help it. But that is the imbalance that naturally occurs. You cannot expect to be anything else but that if you lean too far to the right. I'm not talking about left and right here. I'm talking about leaning too far. When goodness becomes an automatic response, not a crafted one, is what I'm saying. And so I'm asking you, as you, from this day forward, if we will try to take up the teachings, not from an intellectual standpoint, but as phases of transformation that we walk out, that we activate, so that we can inherit the joy of the path. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say to you today. Because if not, we'll have to keep going round and round and round. And I want to keep going further. But it takes a certain kind of energy to go further. It takes a kind of confidence and fearlessness and joy and alertness right where we are. Otherwise, we can't move from this spot. We have to just kind of keep trying to find another way of saying the same thing, another way of saying the same thing, another way of saying the same thing to be able to go further. And I think that we are coming up, I know, to a very exciting time. There is a movement occurring. Some are going to get on board and experience the movement. Some are going to stay right where they are. It's okay to stay right where you are. I just want to say, though, that there is somewhere else to go. There is something else to do. There is something else to know. There is something else to become. So, who did their meditation practice this week? Oh, 50%. That's better, more than 50%. It was 2 last week. So I feel really, well, first of all, I felt good about the honesty. I have to say that. If you ain't do it, you ain't do it. I can't, I'm not in charge of you. So that was okay. To even feel like you couldn't say you didn't do it is to give up your power. You understand what I mean? You can just be able to say, no, I didn't do it. So that was good, but to have done it is even better. Because it's going to take you somewhere. And what I want to say again is don't be striving for the time period. Strive for quality, and how you strive for quality is not through grinding. You strive for quality through observing. So part of that is observing until your focus naturally comes into activation. Your capacity to observe deeply, Buddha Master calls it observing deeply, but to just focus. And it's just a training to help a mind that's used to a mind that's used to always being out there, going by what it has seen or heard or tasted or touched or smelled. It's that. That's what we call false appearances, invading the mind and giving you certain thoughts, and you think that there comes a place that you can see. So somebody said something, you heard what they said, but you can know with that inner knowing that's not exactly the words they use, that wasn't exactly what they meant. Then you don't fight over words. Sometimes you see something, but you've only seen one snippet of something that's going on, but you draw a conclusion about what you've seen or what you have. Somebody expresses their thought, and their thought differs from your thought. And so now their thought is pitted against your thought, and their friend, if their thought agrees, foe, if their thought disagrees, but that can only be a small part of the totality of the thought. Sometimes if we're arguing for our view, you argue long enough, you're gonna find some points of agreement. But because you started off arguing for your view, you can't even acknowledge your points of agreement, because that would be like giving in to your opponent. That's our rough human nature. But these are the things that we're working on. These are the things that we are refining. See, they don't have anything to do with anybody outside of us. They only have to do with ourselves. And so it starts to be a challenge at some point to start. You can confront yourself if you can. If you can't confront yourself, you could like slide up to yourself and just say, "See that right there? Whichever way you have to get to yourself, just don't stay a baby too long. Um, so don't go to Peter Pan land. We have to grow up. Um, but this is, you can see, this is all like an inner work. And he says, I can tell you one of the fastest ways is practicing doing the opposite of what you think benefits you. Now this doesn't mean give the whole farm away, but it means practicing going against that habitual tendency of selfing and self-preservation. You know, and sometimes it'll hurt, sometimes it won't, you know. I made a habit, a practice for a while, like about a year. I would just keep bills in my pocket, in cash. And whenever I came up to a stop sign, if somebody had a sign, I would give them something. Not because I thought everybody needed it, but because I thought I needed to be able to cultivate a kind of generosity and impartiality that freely gave. Not because I thought everybody needed. There was a woman that lived across the street from me, and she died with $200,000 in her mattress, and she went out and begged every day. And so I knew from firsthand experience that not everybody on every corner needs, for some of them, it's a business, But I wasn't judging that. I was judging my sense of generosity. I'll give it to that one because I think that one deserves it. That one looks like I want to give to this, but I don't want to give to this one. That kind of thing. Uh, I used to give money, but only if were gonna buy food with it. But then I started thinking, if I had nowhere to sleep but out on the concrete, I might need a Budweiser to help me just get to sleep tonight. And so I stopped judging them on, well, what you gonna do with the money? I'll take you, you know, and get you food with it, but I'm not gonna just give you money. So I just changed those attitudes. So I'm saying, this is what I mean by we have to change some things. Like when we see behaviors in other people, what comes first, the judgment of them? They're always like that. That's how they are. Or rather, really, really, really giving them the benefit of the doubt that there may just be a method behind their attitude or their way of working something out. Like maybe they're thinking that person just needs to hear one more kind word. That person just needs to be, and so we need somebody who can say, get your act together, and we need somebody who can have a kind word. It's not just all get your act together, and it's not just all kind words. But so I have to judge what I need to do, but I'm spending half my time judging what they need to do. And so I'm saying learning to back up off of these behaviors, that's the real deal. That's the real deal. This don't sound like the good foot Buddhism, but this is the Buddha Dharma. And it can change you fundamentally. Some of us are trying to become human beings. But Buddha Master said, you can't be attracted to the Dharma. It's impossible to even be attracted to it unless you already have some roots and some seeds of goodness. So you're basically good people. So you don't have to try to be good. You're already good. Get better and move towards the excellence. Beyond we see human nature. Is that it? Do I want to just uh, human is like a base level for me. I want to be. I feel within myself there's more capacity than just that. So that's that transformation that starts to take place. But it takes place where we are, not some future date, not some future life, but this life determines what will occur in a future date. And this life determines what will occur in a future life. This is the cause. So the effect that we want has to be initiated now. Now is the time. Now is the time that we give our lives to inherit a greater life. I hope that was useful to you in some way. Now you should be able to go and sit on your pillow again this week and do your 5, 10, or 15 minutes again. And all you're doing is training the mind to be able to concentrate. Everybody was so concentrated today in this talk. I could tell when people flaking off when they ain't here. I can tell when they're here. It's, well, I can. And I could see the rapt attention today. That's what concentration's like. It's like if you're half listening, daydreaming, wondering what you're going to cook for dinner, or, or you're fully here. And I felt you were fully here. But you see, that's a in the moment present thing. It's not a thinking about a thing. It was present, actively present. And it makes words come alive in your life. And so think of meditation, developing concentration, just creating that kind of focus and that kind of attitude and that kind of consideration and that kind of appreciation, for what is being shared, looking at how it really affects me and where it meets me at my own personal commitment, my own level of living, you know. Uh, that's all it is. And that's a gathering of energy, just bringing back the disbursement of energy into a single place so that it becomes more powerful, it becomes stronger, and it is able to override. It's a force. It's a force that we create that's able to override dullness and ignorance and inaction and what we call mistakes. And it allows for what we call miracles, but they're not miracles. They're within the scope of our capacity for a certain level of accomplished mind. That's it. So we don't have to get proud about it. We don't have to, we just need to know something. We just need to know what's what, you know. And it starts with being able to concentrate the mind. Now, and this is the last thing. When we know when the mind is dispersed and when the mind is concentrated, it's so important. So this practice of sitting for 5, 10, or 15 minutes is for you to get a feel for when your mind is concentrated and when your mind is dispersed. Right now, your mind is concentrated. And you know, and you're experiencing what that feels like. When your mind is out to lunch, you know when it's like all over the place or when it's no place, you know what that feels like. You're not having to exert energy. The concentration is arising naturally because of the interest and because of the effort that's being put towards your spiritual awakening, your desire for awakening. So there's desire and there's interest. And that is the force. It's not the, but the desire and the interest is the force. So arouse desire and interest, not force. Figure out how to do that this week. What is your own great wish for your life? And as you do that, you'll watch the force will get stronger and stronger within you. And it has a settling effect. It has a calming effect, not the opposite. And you'll begin to rest. And that is the beginning of discovering your own intrinsic true nature, that which is harmonized, that which is unified, that which is present, that and alert and fearless. And you naturally then begin to see every other person as yourself. And then you forget about yourself. And yet, you know, you're not doing, but nothing is going undone because it's just the spontaneous action. In any moment, you just know what to do. I'm wrestling with something. I don't know quite what to do. So I know to not do anything, but to get into that. Once I drop into that still place, it will become clear to me. And I tap into the unified field, that greater mind, the mind behind this individuated mind. I will know the right thing to do. And I've been saying it now for a couple of months. And my deadline that I gave myself for knowing this is approaching, and I don't know. And if I don't know about the deadline doesn't count. It's the knowing that really counts. Yeah. So sometimes you might have to change your plans. Just change them. Don't be afraid to say, change your plans. No, because you're growing more and more into the fullness of the measure of the stature of awakened ones. And that's why we're on this journey. Somebody want to close today?
We dedicate the merit of this precious opportunity to hear the Dharma and integrate it and practice it and walk it out to all beings who are struggling in samsara, who do not know the way out. May all beings come to know their true nature. Turn the light, turn the mirror inward, and be free from all sufferings of this world.
Thank you for coming.